Hi, everyone. Now that we've gotten some feedback, or now that, well, I have gotten some feedback from your first exam, and thankfully, several of you have sent me emails and with concerns and some comments and questions and that kind of thing. So I thought about what could help you the most, or what I thought could help you the most, and so I am going to do two things. This first video is going to be a sort of to help you understand how to study the information in the chapters using your study modules and using your textbook before you ever try to attempt your homework or quiz or PAL assignments. So, okay, so this is what I suggest, and what we've got to do next is chapter 6 and 7, which are due today. So you know what? Instead of that, I'm going to go on. And by the way, I do want to tell you this too. What you're looking at is not, this is what my view of our mastering course looks like. Your view looks a little different from mine. But we have similar information. So I'm going to go with what's due next week. So chapters 8 and 9 are due next week. Chapter 8 is on the nervous system, and 9 is the general senses and the special senses. So I'm going to go to, and I notice I'm starting not with the textbook, but let's say you have not looked at chapter 8 at any of the information, any of the assignments. The first thing I want you to do is the chapter 8 module 1 dynamic study module. And notice it goes from sections 8.1 to 8.6. And if you've done these, hopefully you have, they're very simple questions that just assess, what you know, and they'll go back and review information that you don't know. So here is what I would do in your position, because you can do these study modules as many times as you want to. But I would go through and do this one, okay? And I'm going to do a few questions just to show you what I mean and make sure you understand how to take the most advantage of the dynamic study modules. So the first question says, action potentials are generated by the opening and closing of which of the following channels? I'm not even going to read the answers, because if I were a student and I had no instruction in this, I would absolutely just go down here and click I don't know yet. But what it's doing is giving you some questions so that you know when you go back to read these sections, you know what to kind of look for. So action potential in that last question, the word action potential, and you saw another term called channels. So which nervous system division is also called the visceral motor system? We could actually figure this one out, because we know viscera are the organs within your abdominal cavity, organs like your intestines and your stomach, and even your gallbladder and your liver. And motor refers to movement or action. So let's see, visceral motor system. Would that be the somatic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, the efferent division of the central nervous system, or just the central nervous system? Even having an idea of what visceral motor nervous system is, more than likely you're going to click I don't know yet. Now, if you want to do this faster, which I would suggest, unless you just know the answer, I would just read the questions. Click I don't know yet, just go through them, read them, click I don't know yet, read the next question, click I don't know yet. And if you keep doing that, I mean, you should read the question too, but I'm just trying to get to the point. I'm trying to make a point, and believe it or not, so the somatic nervous system is part of the blank. Which type of cell are the dendrites and axon continuous with the cell body lying off to one side? Okay, now this is the part. So you go to learn. So basically you knew nothing. So for every one of these questions, you're going to have down at the bottom of what you need to know. And for that first question, it explains to you that action potentials are generated by the opening and closing of voltage-gated sodium channels and voltage-gated potassium channels in response to a graded potential. And then now it moves on to another question. Okay, but the point is you're at a good stopping point to go back now and read that first little bit of information. Trying to figure out how to, I think I just click out of it. All right. So now what I'm going to do is go to the study area. In the study area, you can click on the chapter, study by chapter, or you can go to, you can go to the e-text. Let's just do that. In the e-text, takes a few minutes for it to come up, but you can go to chapter 8 and I'm going to go to search chapter 8, the nervous system. Okay. Okay, and it just takes me right there. So that's just the first, the cover page, and this is section 8.1. And you can see that this is going to describe the divisions of the nervous system. Our first question was about action potentials, but we also had a question about the divisions of the nervous system. So this is a good time to read through the divisions of the nervous system, especially your terms that are in bold. The central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system are the nerves that are attached to the brain and the spinal cord. And then there's a lot more. The afferent division, the efferent division. Then you have a chart, which you can blow up, so that you can see it larger if you need to. But this chart is wonderful because it gives you all the divisions of the nervous system in one chart. So you can see how everything's related to everything else. You can see the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system. So this is a chart I would recommend strongly you memorizing. Maybe even redraw it on your own without looking, and see, do that until you can get it right without looking at it. Now in the reading, this is kind of like an active reading textbook, so you will have some questions. Identify the two anatomical divisions of the nervous system, and but of course, I mean, there's nowhere for you to put your answer. You just have to kind of do it in your head. We just learned it was the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So I'm going to check my answers, and it is the CNS and the PNS. And you'll have more questions, and you can check your answers. This is a good way to go through. So now I've done the part on divisions, and then I'm going to read the next one. It says neurons are specialized for intercellular communication and are supported by cells called neuroglia. And if you scroll down, you're going to see some pictures that you saw in your first set of questions in your dynamic study module. So this will give you something to read so you can understand the different neurons. I think we had a bipolar neuron or a unipolar neuron, and it might have been unipolar. They look very similar, but one of our questions going to keep reading through that because you know that's in that first set of questions. And then if you skip to the next, okay, now we're going to get to action potential, and we're going to read about the action potential. So once you get through section 8.3, that's probably far enough because we've covered the terms that we saw come up in the questions. Now we're going to go back to the dynamic study module, and it should pick up where we left off. Wait, I'm sorry, chapter 8. So I'm going to go back to chapter 8. I know it's a lot of going back and forth, but what this does is this allows you go into student view, and it should come up where I left off, and it is. Okay, so good. This is the review, and after I go through and review everything, it's going to have me come back, and it's going to ask me some of the, remember you seeing this picture? So it's going to have me come back and do those first few sections over. So reading, going through and answering the first set of questions. Notice it's about 1/3 of the total. If you look at what's in green here, this is what you've covered so far, about 1/3 of the entire module. We could tell in the study area in the e-text that the sections 8.1 through 8.3 were covered. And we read those sections, and now we're going back and we're reading the explanations of the answers. And eventually, we're going to start having questions again. Okay, and apparently it's not going to take us back, so it's starting with new questions, but that's okay because at the when you get to the very end, it will retest you. The point is, it's going to go back and give you. It's going to go back and give you questions that you've already had, like ones that you missed. It's going to ask you those questions. So this is the study modules along with reading the text. I would recommend doing before you do any of your assignments. Yes, it's a little bit time consuming, but there are some tricks that can help you get through them faster. But in the end, the time that you spend on the study questions, the study modules, and the e-text, it's kind of comparable to the time you would have spent in class if we were meeting face-to-face. So think of it that way. And your assignments really don't take that long if you take the time to do your study modules and read your e-text along with the study modules. So I hope this was helpful to you. Once you get through with all of this, of course, then you would go and you do your homework assignment and your reading quiz. And I'm going to do a whole nother instructional video on the PAL assignments that I think will help you increase your scores on those.